call the meeting to 12 o'clock. We'll go around introducing ourselves. I'm Fev, Chair of Exemption Committee.
Okay. Ononathone, Exemption Committee member.
Here in ERP Central, Tom Eisen.
Kaylee Yoshioka.
I think there's some other ERP staff listening in also.
Okay.
Where's Ron?
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Onana. Hi, Michelle.
Ron, you want to introduce yourself for the record?
Hey, Ron.
Hey, guys. Ron Terry, member of the public. That sounds so good.
Something we can all aspire towards.
Yeah.
Japing, do you want to introduce yourself?
Japing Faust, project manager for SFA.
Thank you. Great. And thank you all for attending. We have three exemption lists currently. One was the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. We talked to them a couple months ago and gave them some pretty big comments. So haven't heard back. So no action this meeting on that list. The School Facilities Authority, which was published in the 5/23 environmental notice. And ERP, do we know if we received any comments on their yet?
No comments have been submitted so far.
Thank you.
All right, so 5/23, 2 weeks would put it.
I think it was June 7th.
Friday.
So June 7th will be, this Friday will be the last day for comments, Japing. So we can't take any action on the list this month, but we'll see what comments come in. And then in July, we can have at the committee meeting, we can provide you any, if there are none, then we can recommend concurrence on the list.
Thank you.
All right.
Finger crossed.
Yes.
Or maybe you'll get great comments, and you never you never know. Oh, well, thank you for joining. That's we don't really have anything else to chat about unless you have any questions.
No question. If there's a comment, probably just need to send to Cindy Watanabe, the contact person that original who submit the list. I will be leaving SFA at the end of this month, so hope no comments. Finger crossed.
Okay. Okay, so make sure to CC or include Cindy Watanabe, and you're leaving at the end of the month.
Thank you.
Yeah, where are you headed if you're able to say?
Well, still at the States. Not
Okay.
okay until it's stable. So yes, keep secret. But I will still work in the same field, and I will have a chance to work with you guys. That's great.
Oh.
We'll deal with a lot of environmental issues.
Great.
Great.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Email address?
I am going to try.
If we do get any comments, we can pass them along sooner than the July meeting. So I'll reach out to staff at ERP on Friday and just confirming we didn't get any comments, and then I'll let you know if any came in or not. So you don't have to wait until the July meeting.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you'll know sooner than that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jovi.
Take care.
List. That brings us to the third list on the agenda, which is the Department of Education list. We received it in mid-April, but just a chance to review it. Yeah. Saw the list attached to the agenda. Did you get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I did an initial read through it. think, general comments, updating the date to this year, when we finally concur, references on the first couple of pages to the Environmental Council or just the council should be changed to Environmental Advisory Council. It's on. And then, I think for them, when we sit down with them, I'll maybe have some questions on some of these. For example, part 1, exemption type 2, right? Replacement or reconstruction of existing structures where they're, generally new, where the new structure is generally located where the old structure is and kind of the same size. For erosion control, slope stabilization, and rock fall work, I'm almost thinking that's maybe a part 2. Just, I don't know, for me, anything kind of super structural, I get hesitant to put as a part 1.
Are you part 1 type 2 or part 1?
Part
Type
1, oh, sorry, actually, it's type 3. That's what it is. Part 1, type 3. So it's actually on page 5.
Yep.
This is the location of new structures and facilities. So for that one, I almost think that, so that number 3, erosion control, maybe goes to part 2.
Mhm. I wondered that also about some of the items being potentially part 2. There's a size limit. I mean, the ones like open performing areas stood out. A small area that seems reasonable, but if you're an amphitheater,
Yeah.
So stood out for me.
Yeah, likewise, I mean, for part 1, general exemption type 4, minor alterations in the condition of land, right? For 1 and 2, for vegetation clearing, grading, and grubbing. Same comment about, depending on size, it could be more of a part 2.
And I went back and looked at their list, which was 2006. I believe. I don't know if you had a chance to
I didn't look.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah, 6. And they had some additional that's then. So they definitely simplified with this revision. So there were sort of size limitations included last time that they, generalize. We tend to suggest that folks generalize so they're not tied in. But I think with some of these structures, they could go large. And so having a size restriction, I think, would be appropriate.
Yeah, I think maybe the question to them is like, about how big of an area do you guys typically do these uses in? I mean, same for like you mentioned, the amphitheaters or open performing areas. I kind of have when I think of open performing area for DLT, I kind of just think of a lawn that you like do Mayday at. So probably okay.
Right.
I don't know if I think,
yeah,
I don't do like impervious or whatnot. It's usually just like a ground, right? But good to ask questions just to see like, hey, what are you talking about when you say open performing area? So yeah, I think we'll have questions to them on kind of those things. And then
with the trees and the, they had like a caveat to, what we wouldn't remove, historically significant trees.
Sure.
In the last list, and I was like, well, I kind of like a little nebulous, necessarily been evaluated, right, for significance, but I like the thought behind it.
Okay.
One thing they had in the previous, it wasn't separated into the types like this, but sprinkler irrigation system, and I thought for there too, adding sprinkler irrigation system under the vegetation and alterations of land and water.
Yeah, I guess that fits with landscaping type facilities. Should be okay. moving through part 1, general exemption type 6 for demolition of structures. They also have that in part 1. I feel like that should be a part 2, because if you look at their part 2, they have none.
Mhm.
I mean, and again, at least for bigger structures, right? We just need to have an idea for like what kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think just guiding them, like if you have even a question, I mean, if they're demo, doing demo for an entire school site, versus just like a little lanai area, that makes a difference.
Versus a cafeteria or yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And then I'd be interested to find out for exemption type 7 what kind of zoning variances
Hmm.
they typically get for their properties. So if we can ask them that question.
Mhm.
And then they put for type 9, they don't do any land acquisition. I wonder if that's correct. Maybe we can just ask them about that.
Under type 9, in the previous list, they had building setbacks listed as zoning variances. So I wonder if that's
Oh,
or sorry,
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 7?
type 7. It was type 9 before, or class 9
Okay.
7 this time. So building setback.
Okay.
That's the kind of thing they mean.
Yeah, that makes sense for them.
Mhm.
For part 2 is pretty skinny.
Very skinny.
So yeah, like I said, I think there's some stuff in part 1 that probably more appropriately fits under part 2. In my opinion, so maybe we can walk through that with them.
Yeah,
For
the type 2 is interesting. There were more caveats than types of projects.
I think we need to ask them for part 2 exemption type 2. They put replacement of structures outside of existing DOE property boundary. I guess I want some clarity on that, because if it's not DOE property, curious of what the applicability. Yeah, how does the DOE list apply to it? So I think I want clarity on that. Number 2 under type 2, part 2.
Yeah, I guess I understand number 1 didn't seem like a type of action. There was more like a minimization measure, an avoidance measure type of project.
Yeah. So yeah, they'll probably have some stuff on their part 1 for type 2 that might want to come over.
Yeah.
But maybe, yeah, the ones they had listed don't give me a lot of heartache under part 1, just because if they're replacing existing structures.
You even?
No,
Yeah.
no, going back to their part 1 type 2, not a lot of that gave me a lot of, because yeah, it's all. But now when you come down to part 2, exemption type 3, construction and location of new small facilities, and they put new school facilities, including housing on existing campuses, except for gymnasiums and cafeterias. So maybe this needs to be fleshed out a little more, because we're talking about new facilities, which again, I want to know sizing that they're talking about.
Same, yeah.
At least, I mean, I think you and Ron would know more. How often you're for schools, I mean, you typically have a brand new campus. Would you have a new 343 document typically, right? Because state fund. Yeah, so yeah, this exemption type 3 number 1 gives me some pause to say that a brand new school would be wholly exempt.
Right.
We certainly get a lot of submissions for something much smaller than a whole new school, just new buildings. They submit EAs all the time. Okay. Too often, I personally think. But it's for like a new administration building or a new covered facility. I don't recall a new school in a very long time. But it's work within the campuses is where we get most of the EAs.
I
Why
mean,
they're not exemptions, I don't know, but they've been doing EAs.
yeah, because a new building on a campus, that's like, again, going back, presumably they would have done some kind of a study for like a brand new whole campus, right? At least a programmatic where if you come in later and say, hey, we're going to put this school building specifically in this location, then I could see an exemption being appropriate in that case. But if you're building a whole brand new campus, and again, I just don't know how big some of these campuses are.
Or
I have a question of
Yeah.
whether or not it should be wholly exempt, depending on the size. I just don't know. If you're building one little preschool building, maybe okay, but if it's a huge high school.
I mean, and a lot of times I think the campuses haven't fully inventoried or fully surveyed. So, there's always the potential that with a new building on a campus, with grading permits and with other permitting requirements, you'd have to do, you'd have to do your due diligence with those permitting things. So I don't think the EA is gonna, maybe not biology, but at least cultural resources, you would get an inventory through the grading grubbing
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
permits. I guess as long as you're not touching a wetland, again, that would trigger, different kind of permit. So
Okay.
I think finding a sweet spot. Ron, do you have an opinion on that as the public? Just like a feeling of size for a new
Yeah,
school.
certainly. I can't imagine exempting a new school.
Mhm.
That doesn't seem right. I've had a lot of schools call me about what's an appropriate level of review for activities they're doing. And for example, they were going to do a new pool at Keough High School. And I said, well, you might be able to exempt it. And they said, no, we want to do an EA.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of it was that there was going to probably be some public traffic. And it was a part of campus they hadn't really fully surveyed yet. So they said, no EA.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, maybe I think this is our initial review. So maybe we just talk to him, ask a little bit more questions to confirm, like, what do you folks mean by this exemption type 3? If it's just facilities on existing campuses, to be sure, but we want to make sure that, yeah, they're not trying to exempt like an entire new campus.
Or to Ron's point, something that was significantly changed. You're doing something that increases, capacity at the school. If you're just trying to serve the existing,
Right.
So I think that's a good point. It seems many schools, traffic is not, was not a factor when they were originally built. And
Right.
The more we add and the more we build onto schools, right? Traffic problems.
Right. Okay.
Just, I think some kind of useful with them.
Part 2, exemption type 4, removal of unexploded ordinances. So actually I look to you folks. Do you typically do an EA for that, or is that typically an exempt?
Sorry, which one?
Oh, exemption type 4, removal of
unexploded ordinances. Yeah, I did not know DOE.
Yeah, I guess for you and Ron and Tom, I mean, since you see stuff that comes to the office, I mean, is that something you see environmental review for? It sounds dangerous, and it could have impacts. That's the only reason why it gives me a little pause to say, hey, is this exempt? Something that can't be exempt.
I've never seen an EA come in specifically for that. It sounds like there's public and health and safety concerns, maybe above and beyond environmental concerns.
I work a lot with that subject, and I do natural resources support for UXO removal, and we're using federal funding, and it's under the CERCLIS program, which is alternative to NEPA. So there's no EA prepared, but there are some environmental documents, which I would kind of call NEPA light. There's no section 106. There is section 7. But I've never seen a state equivalent HEPA applied
Okay.
to anything. Now, mainly because they're working with federal and not state funds, but they do work on state land a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just never been brought up. A lot of what they do with removal of UXO at schools is it's a response to a finding, like something was there.
So
And
it's
it's
like,
basically emergency anyway.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was trying to think because I thought last year they did didn't they detonate an unexploded ordnance in Kaneohe Bay or around there? I mean, I don't recall there being anything for it, but I know there was some just publicity of it and closing off of the area. So I was just curious on whether or not, but that makes sense.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
And some years ago we found some while grading at Waimea Elementary School. Grenade, live grenade.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, so maybe that one's okay then as an exemption, and it's in part 2. And and maybe we just ask them like, hey, what's your folks' process for going through it? Because yes, if they are getting federal funding to remove it and there's a review at that level, then there's some level of review, right? About what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't have anything on type 5. For type 6 and type 7. I actually kind of think their notes from the part 1 should be in part 2, maybe, just to disclose like the demolition. I don't know. I mean, what are you guys feeling? I mean, again, the part 1 type stuff is real de minimis, admin in nature for some stuff, but real de minimis. So I guess just depending on how the size of the demolition, like if it's one building versus several buildings, if it's several buildings, maybe it's more of a part 2, or if it's a gym or cafeteria or the auto shop or wood shop or metal shop.
Right.
That's more of like a part 2 thing to me.
Mm-hmm. It's something to be interested to learn about too, in addition,
Okay.
in major parts of schools or,
Yeah, maybe we just ask like, hey, what kind of stuff are you guys demoing on a regular basis? Okay. Yeah, and I didn't have really comments for the rest of the list.
Yeah.
Maybe the one thing on the lighting, so they don't really talk, is to add what is the one note we've been adding? And I know Ron was really good for the exterior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where was
so
that?
Mention lighting part 1, exemption, and for ops and maintenance, it just says, exterior lights, poles and posts. So maybe we just add what's the prior reference we were doing, referencing just that.
It's a night sky protections statute from HRS.
Yeah, protection statute.
Yeah, you could find it in previous lists.
Okay, thank you.
We've been more worried about counties doing it, but because they don't necessarily have to, I guess, but all state agencies should be doing it anyway, but sometimes they are not aware of it.
Yeah. So maybe we just say for that one, we can add, parenthetical, it says in compliance with the night sky protection statute. Yeah. Yeah, other than that, I don't have too many. I guess that's a lot of questions, but what about you, Michelle? Anything else on that list?
No, as we were going through about the ones that I'd seen, I think the big thing is just talking about sizes on some of these structures and whether they fall under part 1 or part 2. Ron take a look at the list? Did you see did anything else jump out at you or anything we're talking about make you think about something else?
I didn't actually look at the list. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Not required to.
Did you read the DOE list since it's tied to school facilities? Did you have any thoughts?
Nope.
Okay.
Michelle, so are you gonna send some comments over to them ahead of the next meeting and to them? Go
Sure
through
will.
it with
Yep,
July.
I'll send them an email and then I'll invite them, to next month's meeting. I'll keep DHHL on the list in case they come back. Maybe I'll send them a follow-up email, just let them know we're here, if they'd like to.
Okay.
And then, or Cindy will be next month for SFA and we'll continue with DOE.
Awesome.
Anything else on the agenda that I had? Oops, that's not true.
I think we have meeting minutes,
Meeting
but
minutes.
I'll move to approve. I didn't have any comments on the meeting minutes.
Okay, great. Second. Can vote.
Oh. Aye. And then since Ron wanted to join, I think we can ask him if is there anything in particular he wanted to discuss?
No, I was just kind of interested in, how the progression of lists were going, and it's good to see, there's business before the committee, and people are updating their lists. I think it's really important. As I, continue to work in this field, it's a constant area of inquiry. Exemptions comes up all the time.
Yeah, I think Ron, that's really right now the most business the council has is the exemption list. So no, that's great that you're keeping in touch. Well, we do have you here if I can kind of tap you. So, looking at our meeting minutes from the last meeting, we did pull out the prior 2019 exemption guidance. Do you remember that handout that I think it was primarily you and Scott worked on, and then I think I helped you guys just a little bit at the end once you guys really got it to the shape that it's in. So one thing was, we're gonna take a look at it again and just see if it needs to be refreshed in any manner. In your experience, are the agencies really even using that handout? And Kaylee or Tom, I don't know if you have the capability to send it to Ron. It's in the agenda under the meeting minutes, Ron, if you have access to that.
Yes, I do. I can take a look. Yeah.
Yeah. So in
Pointed out the logo. I had pointed out the logo. I think a couple of references that need to be updated. So aside from
at minimum, those kind of reformatting references to the council and OEQC, right, should be updated to ERP and EAC. But yeah, I didn't know. I mean, this was just one of the things we were like, okay, since we are kind of light on, we still have agencies that have been reaching out to Tom and Michelle to update their lists, but not too much traffic right now in that sense. So we're like, hey, we should just take another look at this, guidance document and see if we need to update it.
It certainly is the area that I get the most questions from agencies has to do with the exemption process. Also, I notice maybe as a disjunct to that, we've been getting many fewer monthly submittals of the required list than we used to, which on the surface means they're doing less exemptions, or many agencies aren't doing any exemptions. I have a hard time believing that. I think they're just not fulfilling and they're not complying with what the rules say. That's without knowing anything specific. That would be my take on it.
Interesting. Is it like the big agencies? Or are you still getting like the main folks who do, like I know like DOT, DLNR,
The DLNR is very good. DOT, like I'm preparing the, for the January 8th and June 8th right now. And DOT went so far as to say, send us something saying they have nothing to report, which is totally great, as opposed to just not sending anything, which is, I think we've only had 5 agencies submit this time. Often we would be getting 10 or more in the past. So
Interesting.
maybe they're just not doing any exemptions, but that's a little hard to imagine.
Okay.
Tom,
Yeah.
do you send out that, that guidance ever?
Did I what?
Do you ever send out that guidance that, it was mainly Scott developed, it was very good.
Yeah, I don't recall if that was sent out back then. It probably was. I don't recall doing it, but I don't think he would have tasked me with it at the time that it was being prepared. So I presume
just
it was
mean-
sent out.
When people ask you questions, you know, do you
Oh.
ever send them the guidance to say, you know?
I haven't done it in a while. I think it'd be great to refresh it and then, yeah, have that be available to send out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so too. And it'll also remind all the agencies, you know, about their obligations, refresh them. Probably you won't get super good compliance until that day that someone sues an agency that's pissed off over a project that proceeded with an exemption and there was no notice. And then everybody's gonna start doing it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
soon
great
after
point that by
the-
updating it, we can send it out, you know, a reminder. I really like that.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. And for Tom as a resource to the agency.
Right.
And then Ron, even, you know, where we left with the last pig report, right, in terms of just kind of clarifying, I mean, I don't know that we'll get to do a new rules update anytime soon for a couple of reasons. A lot of us terming off very, very soon. I'm still working with, I know Mary Alice is out right now. I sent a request to her to just jump on a call with her when she gets back from vacation and continue to reach out to boards and commissions and other friends of the council to try to get appointees. But yeah, so I don't know when a new rule update will be able to happen, but one thing that we can do with, you know, the few of us still around is if we need to update the exemption guidance, which I think we can do at least to update it with the correct names, right, for ERP and OPSD and EAC and all of that stuff. But if there's anything else specifically from the PIG report that we wanted to clarify, you know, like the points about, I think the biggest point was for those who don't update their list, right, what their obligations are. So yeah, if you want to propose some language, or if you want me to pull something from the PIG report, let me know and we can try to work that into this updated guidance. Or if you think of anything that's helpful, you know, that needs updating.
Will do.
Yeah.
And actually, we are reviewing it also for updates and changes so we can collaborate on all of the suggestions that we come up with.
Were you
Awesome.
able to track down the Word version? Or?
Oh no, I don't think I was able to find it. Shoot, let me.
No,
Oh, I meant ERP. If they have.
still
Oh,
working on the PDF version, but that's changeable, just slightly clunky to do it.
Yeah, Ron, do you by any chance have the Word doc of this?
That we made a Word version.
I know Scott had it. I'll try to reach out to him, but oh yeah, we were hoping it was in ERP's records.
No, I don't.
I think our staff has made a Word version from the PDF.
Oh, great.
So we can, if we have that, we'll send it out to you folks, because again, it is easier to do on a Word document. I just hope it was a good, sometimes when you transfer from one to another, it introduces a few kinks into the process. So I have to check for that.
Yeah, mind sharing that with me and Michelle, and Ron, even if you have the bandwidth to kind of take a look at it, then we can each do our individual suggested track changes and we can work together to figure out who, well, maybe we send it to you folks, Tom, if you guys have bandwidth, and working on the master document to just, input changes, if that's helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be good. Yeah, well,
Is it possible to do a screen share next week? Forget, can we do that with?
Yeah, we could do a screen share, or
It's
I don't
ERP screen.
do a Google document, but because I feel like even the Google document changes hard sometimes.
Yeah.
With multiple editors, if it's easier just to have everybody do their edits separately and input them more.
Yeah, and I'm happy to compile that too, or compile ours and give it to Tom if he gives us ERP's version. So yeah, we can compile on our end and then insert it into theirs. Which is it'd be kind of
We could do a screen share,
together.
yeah, for the July meeting. Yeah. We could do that.
Okay.
there's a good chance I may not be here for the July meeting. I'm planning a vacation, right? It'll probably be gone the first and maybe second week of July.
Okay.
I'm
Kaylee,
not
will
sure
you?
when the date would be.
I'll be here.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Yeah, I think we're gonna try to have a full council meeting in July as well. We didn't call it for this one because we had so many people traveling and generally being light on substantive business, but exemption still had a list to push through. Yeah.
And Dawn has expressed interest in joining Exemption.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't know with her holdover status, how that is.
She been a holdover. I mean, her term actually ended in 2023 because she had only been appointed her term. But yeah, I mean, I would just have her join and we can officially appoint for July, and then we can officially appoint her to the exemptions committee at the full council meeting in July. Yes, since Mike's term has since ended, but yeah, we're trying to get people on. I'm trying. So
after the when does everybody else term off? It's
well, June 30 is technically my term, Steph's term, but I mean, I can hold over till November. So I mean, I'll just hang out for a few more months to like try to help us along and get this going. But yeah, like I said, I continue to reach out to boards and commissions and our friends of the council. So I'm trying to get lunch meetings with people. The next couple of weeks are busy for the state in terms of, FestPac and whatnot, but still trying.
great, thank you. I think that's all the business we have. So anybody else have anything?
Really, Ron, anything cool you've been working on that we should know about? New developments? Like developments in the area, not like specific developments that you're working on. I mean, just life development.
No, I don't have anything prepared to say. Lots of cool stuff going on. I'm working on more just as much nonprofit stuff as anything else. A lot of volunteer work and a lot of interesting things going on. I'll just tell you real briefly. I went to the Strong Towns National Gathering in Cincinnati. I just got back from that, and it was amazing. It really is. There's just this whole movement out there to make our town so much more sustainable. And Tom and Kaylee, I don't know if you know about that movement, but if you don't, look it up.
That's
Strong
awesome.
Towns, one word.
Strong Town Development. Okay, cool.
Strong Towns. It's a nonprofit organization. It's got about 10 staff, couple maybe about 1,000 members around the country. And that's my big thing right now. Everybody's got to have a cause, right? That's mine.
Oh, that's great. Looking forward to you bringing it to Hawaii. Starting a big.
We're trying. There's a few members here. There's a few people, especially Oahu, but we're trying to introduce it to our council, and that's been a challenge. But like anything,
Yeah,
I'm up for it.
it's overcoming a long history of another kind of planning.
Well,
Towns.
the seminal work in this movement by our cult leader Chuck Marohn is a book titled "Confessions of a Recovering Engineer," So if that gives you some clue.
Is this something that's going to be presented at HCPO this year? A panel on this, maybe?
Well, you know, it was 2 years ago. Chuck Marone was the keynote speaker. And that's how I found out about this. And I don't know. April and I discuss it. She's quite aware of it, but I haven't seen her panel yet. I'm supposed to be on a panel though. Supposed to be presenting.
Okay.
It'll
That's
be
exciting.
on bike paths, but I'll hijack it and throw some strong town stuff in there.
Perfect.
That's what people in cults do.
Yep. That's right.
Oh my goodness.
You have little Kool-Aid.
Oh, I'll have Kool-Aid for everybody.
Awesome.
Great.
I look forward to hearing it, Ron.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, there's something in the chat. Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry. That
Great.
was
Can call the meeting 41. Thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate it.